Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Elevated Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Fouts, and today we're going to be talking about quote-unquote natural skincare, quote-unquote chemical-free skincare. I don't like this term because I think it's tossed around too much, and it's actually not true. So we're going to get into what do people, majority of people, maybe think that natural skincare is, how is it maybe a misused term, and what chemicals you shouldn't actually have to be afraid of. So this is something that I actually hear all the time when I have a new client come in that is more of like a healthy, conscious person. They generally will use the term, they'll ask me, is this natural skincare? And I have never really asked them, what do you mean by that? Because I like to really clarify on my own what I offer and kind of give them the differentiation between what maybe they think natural skincare is and what I offer. But we're just going to get straight into it. Natural or like chemical free, people are afraid of chemicals sometimes. It's just a little misunderstood. Everything is a chemical. Humans, oxygen, water, food. The only phenomena that is not made, or the only phenomena not made of matter are classified as chemicals. So if it's not made of matter, then it's a chemical, such as energy, light, heat, dreams, gravity, or magnetism. So chemical, the word chemical isn't something that you should be afraid of. You don't have to think of like disinfectant spray and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that is a chemical too, but the word chemical is not something that's scary. And when we talk about harmful chemicals, we're considering carcinogenic chemicals, which are potentially cancer-causing, or endocrine disruptors, which disrupt the balance of your hormones. And so what I advise people to look out for are specific alcohols, phthalates, and like forever chemicals. And I'll get into more on all of these as well. Parabens, artificial fragrances, endocrine disruptors. So first we're going to start out with alcohols. A lot of people think that whenever a skincare product has alcohol in it, that it's like isopropyl alcohol, like rubbing alcohol. And it's not. There are actually many different types of alcohols. There are some that actually form a protective barrier on the skin, creating occlusion. And so they serve as thickening agents or thickeners and emulsifiers. These are known as fatty alcohols. And so it's cetyl, stearyl, cetyl, or lanolin alcohol. And the ones that are more drying, that are these kind of sensitizing alcohols that actually are used to kind of thin out the skincare product, are just plain alcohol, ethanol, denatured alcohol, alcohol denat, benzyl alcohol, methanol, SD alcohol, or an isopropyl alcohol, of course, which we know as to be rubbing alcohol. So yeah, just know that if your skincare product has alcohol in it, that does not necessarily mean that it's drying, and that it serves that purpose to strip the skin, because there are some alcohols that are fatty alcohols that actually serve to form a protective barrier on the skin. So now we can move into phthalates. So phthalates are used to make plastic more durable. And I think a lot of the time now, a lot of skincare brands are advertising that they're phthalate free. And what phthalates are is they are ingredients that are used to make plastic more durable. And that is something that I advise to look out for. So you can spot a phthalate with these abbreviations, so like DEP, DBP, or DEHP. Those are some basic ones. Phthalates are known endocrine disruptors, so that is the reason that I advise people to get products that don't contain those, and that's why I retail and use products that don't contain those as well. Another ingredient that I advise people to look out for are forever chemicals. So it's like a really long name. It's called like polyfluoral or something. A shortened term is perfluor or PFAS, whatever. A forever chemical is an ingredient, this ingredient, perfluor, that your body does not process. So it just builds up in your body over time, and it is carcinogenic, which means that it can cause cancer. You can find forever chemicals in waterproof makeup. So waterproof mascaras, long-wearing, water-resistant foundation, even like nonstick cookware has this as well. And so that is something that now I consciously look out for, and I do not buy mascara that is waterproof for that reason. As well, we have parabens, which are artificial preservatives. They've been used since the 1920s, and they are endocrine disruptors as well, which means that they stimulate estrogen. Parabens aren't just in skincare. They're also used in foods too. They are quickly excreted when they're swallowed or eaten. And there are many different types of parabens. The longer chained parabens are the ones that you mostly want to look out for because they are linked to stronger estrogenic activity. And these are the parabens that will end in propyl or butyl. So PROPYL or BUTYL, propyl or butyl. Now, parabens and preservatives aren't, they don't go hand in hand. A paraben is a type of preservative, but it's a synthetic preservative. Preservatives are good. We need preservatives. Preservatives keep our products clean. They make sure that bacteria, mold, staph do not grow in our products. So if you're just making stuff at home and whipping it up, that can be potentially harmful because there are no preservatives in it, most likely, unless you have taken a chemist class and you know some natural preservatives. But honestly, I don't feel like you should be making products in your kitchen from your backyard unless you are a cosmetic chemist. There are some people that will do like a little yogurt mask, and that's totally fine. Just you don't need to store it a long time because, again, it does not have those. It might have some preservatives in there if it's one that you bought from the store because, foods have preservatives too. But just be careful with that is what I'm saying. And basically the point I'm getting across is that preservatives are needed and they're good. I have run into some people that for some reason they think they're bad. There are synthetic and there are natural preservatives. There are some that are more favored than others. So preservatives are endocrine disruptors, such as parabens, and some aren't. Other ingredients that I recommend people to stay away from are carcinogenic ingredients, which are cancer-causing ingredients. And a lot of people will know this one, which is formaldehyde. Hydroquinone is another one. This is a little bit controversial. Some medical or dermatologists or estheticians that have a medical director on board will use products that have hydroquinone in there. It helps to lighten and brighten the skin. If it is used for a prolonged period, it can actually darken the skin. So that's just something that I don't like. Carbon black is another carcinogenic ingredient that is found in cosmetics mostly. Sodium lauryl sulfate, that is found in cleansers, shampoos. Talc is found in some powders, and then coal tar. So those are some really, in my opinion, they are, and based on my research, more on like highly carcinogenic ingredients that you would want to become familiar with. Something else is DEA, and I'm gonna butcher this, but dithanolamine, DEA. So this is found in soaps and detergents, and it's important to remember that most studies are done on a high dose and long term in mice or rats to determine their carcinogenic activity. But in my opinion, it's not going to kill you if you do have a carcinogenic ingredient in that you're using. But the more that you limit your exposure to potentially carcinogenic ingredients, the better. Now let's get into marketing. This is something that I hate. There's not really any FDA regulation on what skincare companies, whatever, they can put on their labels. You can say natural skincare, and that really doesn't hold a lot of value. Say this is chemical free, this is natural, this is organic. There's no FDA regulation on what that requires for them to put that on their label. And so ingredient labels are meant to help us understand what we're putting on our skin. And if you care, you'll find a reliable source to help you determine what to look out for. So obviously on the back of the skincare products, they will have the actual ingredients listed. Now on the front, they can say whatever they want to. They can say it's organic, it's natural, blah, 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 blah. We don't really want to pay attention to that. We want to pay attention to the ingredients. We want to pay attention to what's in there, again, because there's no FDA regulation. I will have people come in to the spa and they will ask if is my skincare natural? Is it chemical free? Obviously, it's not chemical free because everything's a chemical, but I know what most people mean by that. They mean, is it free of harmful, carcinogenic, endocrine disrupting chemicals? And the answer for me is yes, because I carry brands that do not use phthalates. They don't use parabens as a preservative. They don't contain carcinogenic ingredients because I've chosen to do that. But my brands are not brands that say on the front, organic, natural, none of that stuff, because that doesn't matter. What matters is the ingredients. So the answer is yes, that it is natural. And what I mean by natural is it does use, they heavily rely, a lot of skincare products actually heavily rely on botanical ingredients. And so that is how I explain to my clients. Yes, my brands are professional grade, which means that you can't buy them drugstore. The reason for that is because they are high in quality, and some of the products will be higher in percentages with what you will find drugstore. Now, they're still quote unquote cosmetic grade, which is what you will find at the drugstore as well. I do not have a medical director. The only difference between like medical grade and cosmetic grade is the percentages. So in that aspect, medical grade skincare will often have higher percentages than what you can find in drugstore. Mine sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. Drugstore can carry a 10% lactic acid cleanser if they want, but that's not really the distinction here. The distinction is the quality of the products, the formulation of the products, the care. And that's why it's professional grade, because a lot of times drugstore is going to be very kind of like fast-paced, fastly developed, and there's not going to be as much focus on the formulation as there is with professional grade skincare. Now, I don't know how I got into like a little rant on professional grade, cosmetic grade, medical grade, and then drugstore, but that's a little bit of a distinction. And then, of course, they are highly botanically based, but it's also important to know that there's no chemicals in them that are going to be harmful to you. And if you have a client that is concerned with that, you might want to ask them, what chemicals are concerning to you? What is it that you're wanting to stay away from? What do you mean by this natural chemical-free skincare? What are you looking for? What are you not looking for? And I think really a lot of it has to do with education. I think a lot of times people can get scared because this like naturalist movement and all of that when it comes to skincare, there's a lot of misinformation. A lot of people think that sunscreen is bad for you. There are some chemical sunscreens that are endocrine disruptors, and like I mentioned before, that is done on a long-term high-dose study with mice and rats. I don't think that chemical sunscreen is going to cause you cancer in your lifetime, but that is something that people are concerned with. Chemical sunscreen also can be harmful to ocean life, aquatic life, some of them. There are many different types of chemical sunscreens, but sunscreen altogether is not harmful. It's not toxic. It's not going to cause you cancer. And it's really frustrating that this is a thing, that some people believe this. You need sunscreen to protect yourself from the sun, not just to prevent burning, but to prevent the aging rays, the UVAs and the UVBs. The UVAs are the rays that we can't see. They're the ones that penetrate deep into our skin that cause cancer. And if you're not using a sunscreen, you better guarantee that you will get skin cancer. And so I hope that's something that majority of the general public is starting to learn, is that sunscreen is good for you and that everyone needs it. And this can be a lot. This is not something that I can cover with a client in a 25-minute consult. But some key points, like, again, are to ask, if your client is asking you, is your skincare natural? Is it chemical free? You can ask them, what chemicals are you afraid of? Or what chemicals are you wanting to avoid? Why do you ask that question? And then you can kind of go with some education into that specific concern that they have, and help people to understand that there is not a large distinction between most skincare and skincare that is labeled natural or chemical free. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. You can follow me on social media at Elevated Beauty Aesthetics, or on my esthetician shop, which is Shop Cryptic Skin. That is where I sell esthetician themed apparel that is supernatural in nature and kind of kitschy designs for the modern esthetician. So as always, I will see you guys next Monday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for another episode.